Hey y'all, my name is Z Infante. I am the Director of Youth Outreach for the Future Perfect Project, and we are a grant-based organization that believes the self-expression of LGBTQ plus teens and allies is a declaration of a better future for us all. We have an amazing guest joining us tonight, the author and illustrator Mike Curato of the fantabulous graphic novel Flamer. Oh my gosh, I hit my throat with that one. It's powerful. And just a little bit about what we do while Mike's on the way. We provide free arts programming to LGBTQ plus teens. All of it's free. We also do everything that we can to amplify the voices of young queer youth. And hi Ines Insta Ventures, nice to see you. Hello. We'll also be having answering questions and comments in the chats throughout this evening. And it's been an interesting holiday season. We have some awesome programs lined up. Something tomorrow night at 7 p.m. You can find our signups all through our Instagram bio. We have a link tree there where you can find out all about our upcoming programming. I'm also really excited about our weekly Insta Live series that we do. We're working on surprise guests for you in the future. But we do it every Monday night at 7 p.m. here on Insta Live. Oh, Mike is here. I'm going to wave at you, Mike. And then you can just add yourself in. Come on in. Let's go for a dive. Oh, there you go. Mike is here. Mike.
Hi,
Hey, Mike. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm having a swell night. I'm really happy to be with you. I'm really grateful for your time. I've been
Hey.
looking forward to having a chat with you.
Yeah.
So I got to read Flamer over the last few weeks and look back at it over the last few weeks. And you are really tremendous in your generosity as a writer
Oh,
and in taking on this queer story, sharing a bit of yourself in it. And I'm just grateful for your time. Super excited to have you this evening. Um,
yeah, thanks for having me.
yeah, of course. Just so you know a little bit about what we do, we provide free arts programming to LGBTQ plus teens and allies, and we believe that the self-expression of LGBTQ plus teens and allies is a declaration of a better future for us all.
I'm here for that.
Yes. I'm here for your SpongeBob in the background. That's like
Okay, he's loud and proud right now. Like,
yes, my childhood idol. Oh, he's got a little rainbow flag.
right. The rumors are true.
Oh God, so did you grow up with like figures like SpongeBob? Like what were those kinds of cartoons and animations that really struck you as a young queer person?
I mean, I was a teenager when SpongeBob um hit the screen, but I was obsessed. Um, but yeah, like other cartoons I was really into. Well, it's funny because I just started watching the new reboot of Animaniacs today. Because I was obsessed. And also, my brother, sister, and I, we were like the Warner Brothers and Warner Sister. Um, Sorry, someone's calling me. I'm just, no thanks. Um, yeah, I loved them. When I was really young, I was obsessed with He-Man for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
Men running around in underpants and fur. Uh, and I wanted to be Tila or maybe the sorceress. Um, yeah.
Mm.
And then of course Shira was like that was like a nice bonus. I was like, oh,
Have you seen the
come
reboot of Shira?
through. What's that?
Have you seen the
I
reboot of
have. Yeah,
Shira?
I love it. So like lesbianic.
It really is. It's super queer and super butch and super
Yeah.
femme and super like the lines of gender feel so blurred in some of those characters. It's really dope. And what I love about the characters that you develop is that they're so at least for our protagonist, there's like such a line of in which they have to conform to in the beginning of the graphic novel that like the themes of religion and friendship and sexual identity are so vivid. And what I love that you do early on in the novel is you allow us to see the world that they come from. And it's so beautiful to see this journey. And that's what I love about cartoons like Shira, is that you get to see the hero's journey. And your graphic novel does that so beautifully. I'm wondering for you growing up, like whether you talked about being the Warner family. Um, I love that. I love that. I'm just imagining you as the Animaniacs, growing up that way. Because I too had characters like that, like visions of my family as cartoons. I'm wondering what what excites you or excited you at a young age about animation, about illustration in particular. Like the stories that you create are remarkable. And there was a wonderful moment when I was reading, I won't spoil it, but I was reading towards the end. There was momentum happening, with no text, and I'm sitting there with my boyfriend, and he's listening to the horror soundtrack, like the classical horror soundtrack that he does when he's reading a Stephen King, and I'm like flipping through the pages while the action is happening. It's like there's music in your work. So I'm wondering, like, what what influences your work as a creator, in regards to your queerness, because it just felt like there were these queer moments in the story that were so musical to me, and I guess that's what I'm curious about, what your journey is, as a writer.
Uh, well, um, I mean, film definitely has a big influence on my work. Um, I would like to think that the book is kind of cinematic like that. Um, but I mean, in general, I don't know. I mean, just good storytelling in whatever form it comes in, I'm here for. I mean, I started out in publishing, making children's books for the littles, like picture books. Um, and it's an interesting medium because you have to cram so much into just a few pages. Like you have to break everything down into 32 or 40 pages. Um, and that has to have a full story and lots of emotions. And uh, so in working the format and like reading lots of other picture books, I think that really prepared me for this. I also grew up reading comics, which is why I chose to write Flamer as a graphic novel, is because that's what I was reading when I was 14. And comics really saved me as a reader. Like I wasn't really ready for the giant brick of text, like prose novel. Um, I just didn't understand, like, why do we need to stop looking at pictures? I don't. it, that's always what I've been drawn to. So, um, yeah, just always been into storytelling, always been into art. Um, yeah, I'm not sure if I'm answering your question exactly, but I'm.
You are. I give you a lot because because I'm really moved by what you wrote and what you create, and I'm wondering, like, what, because you speak briefly at the end of the graphic novel about how this is sort of like it's a work of fiction, but that there are parts of yourself in the story. I'm wondering if you can speak to that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Aiden, the main character, and I have a lot in common, I'll say. Um, and I like to think of Aiden being like a more courageous version of my younger self. And we're maybe like 80% the same person. But um, you know, there's some differences. But I, like Aiden, I am Papa. I'm half Filipino, half Irish. Um, I grew up in scouting. I loved scouting. It was um, actually kind of how I started coming out of my shell. Like, it really empowered me to learn what I could do. And because I found a troupe that I really liked in a different town, I was able to make some good friends. Um, yeah, I started out in a different troupe and it was not the best situation. So it was nice to kind of start fresh somewhere else. So yeah, like Aiden, I went to Catholic school, but had all these public school friends through scouting. And then I ended up going to public school in high school, which Aiden is about to do in the book. And what else? I was also an altar server. I also loved archery and I did back weaving. um, yeah, and the big piece of the story, spoiler alert slash trigger warning, is that there is suicidal ideation in the plot, and that is something that I grappled with as a teenager, um, and that's really what I wanted to build the story around. I mean, I had plenty to talk about, but obviously that was like the crux of everything. So that was the cornerstone, and then I built everything around that moment. So yeah, that was the realest and rawest piece of the book for me.
It's super vulnerable. It's super generous, and we talk about a lot about that at the Future Perfect Project in our workshops. So we provide workshops sometimes 2 times a week. This time, because of the holiday, we have one this week called Navigating the Holidays. And in our workshops, we talk a lot to queer youth about expressing themselves and their vulnerability. We ask them a lot about how they exercise their agency. And I'm wondering whether there was that first moment in high school where you finally felt like you could exercise your agency, where there was just something you bumped up against in the world and you felt like you had to take an action in high school. I'm wondering if you had that reckoning.
Well, there were plenty of bumps in high school, that's for sure. It's interesting thinking about agency. Um, I was trying to think of, I don't remember like my very first act of agency, but in that scenario of like having like making a decision to do something or say something, I feel like I did lots of things, but one thing that I really remember was I was in social studies class, and I don't even know why the teacher had us do this, but we used to, so we all sat in a circle, and sometimes she would like poll us about things, and we go around the room. And there was this one, I don't know if she was trying to make a point, but she wanted to go around the room and everyone say, if you could only have one child, what gender would you want the child to be? Which now, of course, would be like, I'm sorry, what? But this was like public school in like the New York City suburbs, like just really traditional kind of way of life. And so we would go around the circle, and all of the girls in the class kind of alternated, like, I want a girl, I want a boy. But then all the boys in the class were like, I want a boy, I want a boy. Like they all going around, it's like, this is some nonsense. And the reason, and the teacher started asking, like, she's like, and share like why, and there are all these like dumb reasons on both sides, right? But I just remember that one guy was, just lots of guys were like, well, you can't like ask your daughter to like help you move a TV or something. And like all these guys being like, yeah, I want a son to like play sports with and blah, blah, blah. And I was just like, I hate this so much. And then it was my turn, and like everyone's kind of like leaning in to me because, people knew something was up even though I wasn't out. But I was just like, I think I want a girl. And all the guys were like, oh, come on. Like they wanted this like unanimous all men want boys sort of thing. And I'm like, girls can move TVs too. and,
Yes.
and I don't know. Some of the girls were into that. They're like, yeah, yeah, I move TVs. And it's like this small moment, but I feel like it encapsulates so much of my high school experience of like always being required to fit the binary in whatever situation, you know, you were in.
Mhm.
Whereas like we all have our pre-assigned roles, and I got a lot of crap because I wasn't always adhering to like straight cis man rules. Um, so yeah, I didn't like high school.
Mhm.
And so a bigger form of agency I think I took was when I was really making a concerted effort for planning for my future because I was like, I'm not staying here. I'm not staying in this town with these people. So I did everything I could to get the grades I needed, do the research about the different schools that I should apply to for art, um, and trying to get scholarships. And, by the time I got accepted I went to Syracuse University, I had figured out a way to get half of my college tuition, paid for. Like I was ready to go. Um, yeah. So agency, big
Yeah.
agency.
Taking our lives into our own hands. That's like such a testament to the hard work that we have to do as queer people and
Yeah.
to find ourselves in safe spaces. I'm wondering, when was that moment? Because you acknowledged that like people in high school were like knew that something was up, but that you weren't out. Like when was that moment that you knew that you were queer or that you were different?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like from a really young age, I knew there was something different about me. It's not like I had this one moment, um, where I was like, I know this. I mean, I didn't come out till I was 21. Um, so it took a long time to get there, and I was certainly wrestling with things long before that happened. But I do remember as a kid, as a really little kid, I knew I wasn't a typical boy.
Mm-hmm.
Like all the other boys I knew were into like really boyish stuff, and I really liked a mix of things. Um, but I really liked a bunch of girly things. And I knew it was breaking the rules somehow, which I found very annoying. But I got mine. I remember one time um, my neighbor thought I used to hang out with this other kid in the neighborhood who was a girl, and she had an older sister, and I would go over to their house and play. And I remember one time, I forget the setup, but they thought it would be really funny to dress me up in my friend's um, communion gown and like lock me out of the bedroom. But it was funny because it's like, no, stop. I don't want to wear a dress. Meanwhile, I'm like, this is happening. All of my dreams are coming true. So, baby's first time in drag, like second or third grade.
Yes.
Aside from the blanket around the waist and the towel around the head at home,
Yes.
that everybody rocked. But this is like, oh, I'm living like my sequence dress fantasy. Um, but it was interesting because they did lock me out of the room, and I kind of was like, all right, I guess I'll just work this hallway. And then, of course, their dad like walks in the hallway, and I'm like, they did it. He was like, stop doing this to Michael. I was like, yeah, I can't wait to take this off. Um,
Yeah.
anyway,
I had moments like that. My sister had this pair of pink heels. They were like pink with a white heel made out of plastic, like cheap little kid toy stuff. And I remember the first opportunity I got to walk in them. I just remember them sitting on the floor like the moment before I was going to grab them like they were, the ruby slippers. Um, and there's magic in it.
yeah,
There's real magic in it. I think for us as queer people, there's a necessity to share that with people. So I'm like, when you said the thing about the like towels wrapped around, I was like, oh my God, that was so how I lived it. My long hair. That was how I had my long hair. It was just through a towel.
Right. Or you pull
So
the t-shirt over your head, you know, just have like a t-shirt up like this, and then you could like tie the sleeves back,
yes,
you know.
yes, yes.
Um,
I just want to encourage those of you who are watching to go check out our profile. We have a link to all of our programming that you can sign up for free. And I want to ask some of the questions from the comments. Someone asked, "Where do you see yourself going with this genre? What would you like to do next?"
ooh, I have an idea that I'm sitting on right now that I started kind of fiddling around with, and I can't share it yet because I haven't sold it. You know how it goes. But
Yes, yes.
all I'm gonna say is, still super queer, and still trying to get more Asian representation. So that's all I'll say about that idea. But I'm really excited about it, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
But that aside, like um, I love graphic novels so much, and making this meant so much to me. So I definitely like to make more for sure.
Mike, it's so good. I'm sure people have been
Mhm.
telling you this, but like remove the word good. Sorry. Rewind. It's
Oh,
so powerful. It's so like one of the reviews say, it will be one of the most influential books for young people. This will like be a moment in time. I mean, as an adult, I'm still reading it like flashing back to so much of that experience and healing through it. It's very healing. Um, So another question was, what is the one message, moral, you'd like the reader to take away from Flamer?
I mean, really, the reason why I made this book was that I just want it to be a lifeline, you know? I mean, it's so important to be able to see yourself in a book or on a screen or anywhere. Just we need that mirror to know that we are valid and deserve to be here, especially before we've found our community, and really like figured out where we want to be in the world. Um, so I don't know if there's really a moral as much as a message of just like to the reader that I see you and I love you and I want you to hang out, you know. Because I had such a hard time as a young person feeling like I belonged. Um, and it grew from being like, oh, I don't know if I belong in this group to I don't know if I belong on this planet. Because I don't really see a safe place to live my life. Um, so that's what this book is for, really.
I'm wondering, as I too, I can relate to that. Those questions of like, do I belong? Do I belong on this planet? Like, so, especially in my youth, just like reckoning with those questions was like, it was scary. And I'm wondering if there was someone or if there was a book or if there was a person that was that mirror for you that helped you see yourself and see your worth or see that life was worth living.
Um, I didn't really have that mirror as a kid. Um, I feel like it wasn't until I was much older that I could really see myself. And the times that I did really finally see myself was when I moved to Seattle after college, and I made not only like gay friends, but like Asian gay friends who like just understood me on this whole new level that no one else had ever understood me in my whole life. So I'm like so grateful to them for like kind of taking me in and being like, it's okay, girl. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, we're here uh and you can be happy. Um, so it meant a lot to like really unlock the parts of myself that I had hidden away for so long, just like for safety measures. Um, So yeah, like early 20s, finally living this kind of joy of honesty, right? Of just like, this is who I am, and everyone was fine with it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so that was really powerful.
I love that you describe, or what I hear you saying, in other words, is like you found your tribe, like
Hmm.
your people. And so much of what we do with the Future Perfect Project in our workshops is encourage people to connect with each other, to build their network. I remember when I was in college, it was the first time I went to school with a bunch of queer people. And I grew up in a very small town, and it was very like the two queer people, and I wasn't even one of them yet. Um, when I got to college, it's like, oh my gosh, gay by May. You know, like that was the saying. It was like, if you were straight, you're gonna be gay by May. That
Oh,
was
the thing I grew up with was buy today, gay tomorrow. Um, which that was my path.
just
Um,
and but when you spoke about finding other gay Asian people, just made me think about like when I found a community of gay Latin people was honestly not really that long ago. I was 28, 27 when it
mm,
happened. You know, it's
wow.
like when I found like a community of queer
Yeah.
Latino people, it was like, oh wow, this exists. And I never knew that I could have that. I had an amazing queer community, but even the niche, you know, just finding the niche
Yeah.
is really important. So I'm wondering, as we're getting to wrap up, if there's like, well, first off, how do you live your life as an artist today? And then what piece of advice would you give other queer artists, young queer artists, about living today? How can they create their work? And so how are you doing it, and how would you suggest or encourage other people to do it?
Well, these days, I have been making art for work. I'm illustrating a new picture book. Yes, thank you. But as I get older, I don't know, this might sound like mad corny or something, but there is an art of the everyday, where it's like you can approach different um parts of your day, not just artistically, but okay, let me backtrack because like Miss Rona showed up and we had to get creative, right? I just feel
Mm-hmm.
like this is actually a very creative time that we're living in because we have so many constraints, right? We're working with a limited palette, as some painters would say. So maybe I just have like one or two colors that I can work with. Using a metaphor here.
I love it.
Yeah, I feel like I've had to be artistic in, with my problem solving. Like art is problem solving. So it's all about finding like ways to experience joy in these like insane times. And I have been finding that, and that's kind of fueling the art that I'm creating, and it's like keeping me hopeful, even though like we're just bombarded daily with like awfulness. It's like what is happening? So uh anyway, I have found a lot of gorgeousness just in like the silver linings. Um, like finally finding a way to like spend time with people in a safe way. That's art to me, I've been cooking a lot.
Mhm.
Um, art for your mouth. Um, yeah. But okay, so advice I would give to young artists who are trying to create. I think this is a perfect time for experimentation, right? Because as part of being creative is, trying out different solutions. Um, so, if you feel like you haven't found your voice yet, um, keep trying on the different hats, you know. You just need to keep on creating. Um, we just can't afford to implode right now.
Hmm.
I think the world needs art more than ever. Um, you know, who knows? Who knows what you're gonna figure out?
Hmm.
Sometimes, sometimes I'll be working on something. Not sometimes, very often, I'll be working on a book, and I won't know what it's about when I start writing it or when I start illustrating it. And it's all about that journey to finding what it's about. Like, I'll have a calling, I'll have things that I'm compelled to talk about and things I'm compelled to draw or paint or whatever. And then it all starts kind of like culminating into something. And then there's this like aha moment of like, oh, I get it now. Like, I get why I'm making this now. Um,
Mm.
I mean, the same thing with Flamer. Like, I just knew, like, okay, this was a scary moment for me in my life. And then there were all these things that I dealt with as a teenager that I still see playing out today. And I haven't really read much stuff for young people that addresses it. So let's do something with that. It's not like I had it all figured out right away. And the art took even longer to figure out than the text did. Um, but then, once started like churning that butter, like it's like, oh, I think I know where we're going with this. So yeah, you gotta just stay the course. Like when you can like feel it in your gut, like I know I'm supposed to be doing this, even though I don't know how it's gonna turn out yet. Like a lot of people would call that like foolish, but it's not. Like you just gotta trust your instincts and believe that something's gonna come out of it, and it could be something you didn't even plan on.
Yes. You know, wise men say only fools rush in, but I can't help falling in love with you as I did tonight. You're a remarkable human being, and I'm so glad we got to kiki and just like chit chat
Yeah.
about art. The thing I'm really taking away that like stopped me in my tracks is when you said art is problem solving. That's like
Absolutely.
so beautifully put, and I'm putting that in my little God box and saying, "Ooh, come out
Okay.
for a day I need you." Um, so again, just thank you so much for your time.
Yeah,
Kudos
thank
to
you. I'm so
you.
glad that this project is around. Yeah.
Of course, we're here for queer teens and to work with artists like you. We do free programming. You could check out for those of you who are still watching or who catch this later, we provide free arts programming, all available through our bio on our Instagram or our Facebook or our YouTube. You can find the link tree to sign up for our free programming. We have a couple more weeks left in the fall, and then we're going to pick right back up in the winter. Um, we have a really exciting project coming out, which I think you're going to love, Mike. I'll email you about it later,
Yeah.
just because I think you'll think it's so cool, and I'm getting excited to share with people. But so thank you again so much, and have a wonderful rest of your evening, and stay
Thank
tuned for some
you.
more Future Perfect Project. See you next Monday.
Bye.
Bye.